Hello everybody and welcome back to another video from the Theory of Racelessness. Before the clip, we have some very exciting news. Dr. Sheena Mason, Dr. Carlos HOYT, and Greg Thomas present Resolving the Racism Dilemma, a full-day conference coming up this September 24th, 2022. Register using the link in the description box down below to experience these leading voices as they explore and discuss how to correct the misguided notions of race. Now, enjoy the video.
So you're challenged with others like inability to put you in a box, like the people are so quick to do. And when they can't, then they just don't know what to do with you. And it comes off in the way they treat you. So it was challenging, but I have to say my biggest challenge was being accepted by my Black peers because I didn't correspond to certain stereotypes, ironically, or because I didn't have maybe similar interests. I was easily cast aside. And so to compensate, I adopted the woke mentality to kind of fit in more. But yes, so without going off on a tangent, that's what I mean by being mixed. I just literally am.
Yeah, I welcome the tangent. Talk to me about woke
About that?
mentality.
Yes. So yeah, so as I mentioned before, I never really paid any attention to I guess my race. It was never a thing, and I never made it a thing until I really was trying to belong with my black peers, and because I didn't get the reaction I thought I would, I opted to just adopt the black strife and really started walking around with a chip on my shoulder. I was very confrontational and not very, yeah, I started to test my non-black friends and to see, their reactions, and is it because I'm black and you guys need to, really check your privilege and stuff like that. And I adopted that kind of behavior for maybe 2 months until my mom sat me down and said, cut it out, because this is not something you should take on. This is not how I raised you. And you don't know what it's like to navigate the world as a black person naturally, because you aren't. You're mixed, and that's how you were brought up. So you don't necessarily know what it means. My mom is dark-skinned black woman with long dreadlocks, and she told me, like, you've seen me go through certain things that you will never have to go through. So don't try to pretend like you do, and don't take that on unnecessarily. And so it took me, it was a hard pill to swallow, but once I did, I was happy, because I felt like there was a weight off my shoulder, a weight that I chose, and once I chose to put it back down, I felt better. My relationship with other people felt way better, and with myself more importantly. And so that was, I'm condensing. It was a long journey, but that's what it was essentially.
Yeah, and that experience that you just described is not an uncommon experience, and it doesn't always, because some people like to make it about being mixed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Put that in quotation marks. Some
Yeah.
people would hear your story and say, "Oh yes," essentially assign some kind of privilege to you because of your mixed status, and again, that to me is a really nefarious way of dealing with people's ideas, and recognizing that people, even people who might have been mixed by American and apparently Canadian standards, who don't look phenotypically mixed, right? Who don't have lighter skin, or the sort of stereotypical image, playhouse and stuff in the background, stereotypical image of what a quote unquote mixed person looks like. They don't look mixed, but they still can and often do, and have had historically had and shared the same ideas in the same ways, and the same similar experiences and the same ways of viewing things. And people who aren't mixed by the one drop rule sort of standards, also share those other philosophies of race and ways of seeing oneself and moving through the world. But a quick and easy way to dismiss a person's ideas is to say, oh, well, it's because they're mixed that they think this, or it's because they have lighter skin and they think this, or it's because they're white and they think this, or it's because they're conservative and they think this. We just keep finding excuses not to listen to these other ideas, so that the sort of perimeter for the voices that we can listen to or should listen to is so small and so not reflective of reality. Because in reality, I think it's a falsehood for people to think that even the majority of racialized Black people think a particular way about anything. I think that our viewpoint diversity in the world is just way more vast and, more comprehensive than people would presume, because there are ideas circulating of this is, if you think this way, you're trying to be white, or you're trying to increase your proximity to whiteness. I saw that in a video recently. And the person was saying, get this. So it was a conversation about CRT, and the person was saying, an advocate and a CRT educator. Okay. And they were saying that a person can happen to be white and a person can be white. And then when she said what she meant was a person can be white as in they're born and they're racially white. And a person can happen to be white as in they're not born racially white, but if they disagree with CRT, it's because they hate themselves and they hate non-white people, and they're trying to increase their proximity to whiteness because they've internalized racism, and so that they happen to be white. And I'm like,
I hear that. That's a popular thing to say. That's a popular, believe it or not, that's very popular. And it's like, I know anybody who's an inconvenience to your ideology is just completely dismissed, because I think, for example, people like us, I would say, we challenge this universality of Black experience. And so because we challenge that, we're then tossed aside and dismissed as being, oh, it's because we're light skins, because we're mixed, blah, blah, blah. Because otherwise they would be forced to really face the inconsistencies and like how incoherent the mainstream narrative is. And so instead of sitting down and really saying, okay, what's the matter? No, it's like, you're the problem, not my ideas, right?
Exactly. It is very prevalent and common, it being those types of ideas. And so when people say things to me, such as there's nothing negative about being white or being Black, or, there's nothing negative about being racialized, I'm like,
come again.
Right. It's kind of like, where do I start in terms of expanding a person's knowledge? But then the interesting thing too is like, people can have the same knowledge. We could read the same set of books, but come away with completely different conclusions. So that's part of the problem of all of this too. It's like, we could have the same knowledge, but just disagree on the conclusions. But, to my mind and to my mentor's mind, he happens to be a constructionist eliminativist. And I mention him incessantly because my skepticism in particular is something that's harder for many people to get their heads around. But one needed to be a skeptic to be an eliminativist. And if we're both eliminativists, then we share in that goal. So it doesn't really matter if we agree or disagree on the reality or non-reality of race, right? So my social constructionist mentor says it very succinctly: there's nothing positive about being racialized. And it didn't have to be that way, but because our histories in the Americas played out the ways that they did, it is that way, and the word Black in other languages existed before they were co-opted to mean anything racial, right? And in that way, in other countries, it doesn't hold the weight that it holds in places like Canada or the US. It's more just it's a descriptor, and it's not taken as anything else. It's not taken as how you think or how you should be or how you are culturally or anything. It's just a matter of fact. But and in those instances, I would say, arguably, there's nothing negative about being racialized right, as Black or white or anything else. But that's not what it is for those of us in North America,
right.
Apparently. That's not what it is. That's not the history that we're talking about. And
we hope you enjoyed that highlight. To watch the full version, use the link in the description box down below. Before we go, here's another reminder for Resolving the Racism Dilemma with Dr. Sheena Mason, Dr. Carlos HOYT, and Greg Thomas. We highly encourage you check out the great things being offered at this conference, September 24th. All of the conference information is linked down below. We hope to see you there.